Oh, we're live now. All right, hold on. Let's do this again. All right. Hey, welcome to the Bear Fruit Show. We got a special guest with us today. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We're talking about the failures and success stories of others in business, life, and real estate. So we got Gordon Cowan with us, CEO of Highrel, international tech company. So we're super excited to dive in. We're going to go over a couple things today. But Gordon says his top successes are number one is realizing my life was lacking until I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, marrying an equally yoked lady that is truly a partner and best friend. And then 3 was starting 3 successful international businesses. And 4 is having a meaningful friendship that can depend on him, that can depend on him and he can depend on them. So welcome, Gordon.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. So tell me, just give me your story. Tell me the good, bad, and the ugly of kind of just life and how you ended up, running a company and traveling to 40 plus countries and really, finding Jesus along the way, really the story of going from dark to light.
So, well, the ugly is always the hardest part to talk about. But, I grew up in a middle-class, blue-collar type family in the Midwest. And, we came in, my mom and dad are from Scotland, and so I'm 100% Scottish.
Nice. So today's like St. Patrick's Day?
It's St. Patrick, and some friends invited me over for corned beef and cabbage tonight for dinner. So
nice.
That's Irish, but Scottish, that's UK stuff.
Yeah.
But no, that's good. But yeah, it's the immigrant story of my mom and dad came to Canada, and then I was born in Canada.
Okay.
Came to the U.S. Grew up in Ohio.
Okay.
Midwest, and we blue collar. Mom and dad were very loving.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was Catholic. My dad was Protestant. So based on their upbringing and they don't mix.
Sure.
It's really a clash. So when I was growing up, I didn't go to church except for, my Boy Scout medal or badge or whatever, that I had to go to church or a religious service. So we grew up and we had no religion in our home. Consequently, peer pressure and that kind of thing. I got tied up in some of the wrong crowd. Mm-hmm. This is the ugly kind of thing.
Yeah.
My parents loved us. We had a great family life, but the peer pressure in a small town was, either hang out with the sports and athletic people or the church going people, or you were, someone who did pot and that kind of thing. I was introduced to pot and drugs when I was young, 13 years old. By the time I was 14, I'm using hard drugs.
Wow.
PCP, and which is angel dust is what they call it.
Yeah.
Coke and opium and that kind of thing. So that's the ugly part. But the good part is, I became an entrepreneur, and just my mentality where, at 10 years old, I'm buying and selling beer cans that I'd collect on the side of the road.
Nice. What kind of made you just start doing that?
Well, it's just kind of a couple of guys that I knew, they like baseball cards or,
Mm-hmm.
We're trading and we're selling and we're just, like marketing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, I got 3 of these for 2 of those, you know, and or marbles, or just, you know, as a kid, you're, you know, I mean, for me, you know, I was always looking for the advantage. You know, how could I capitalize on it, which may not be the best, you know, answer, but
no, yeah,
you know, I mean, it's just
kid.
like, you know, how do I, you know, you're like, how do I get more than what you have?
Yeah,
kind of thing. So as a kid, you know, I mean, I'm selling, you know, baseball cards and collectibles and that kind of thing. But, you know, in a small town, you kind of get in this groove and you think you're going nowhere. You know, not a lot of people going to college, and not that college means success. It's just part of,
kind of,
you know, this is like, you're working, you're working. This is what we're going to do. We're going to work. So that's the nuts and bolts when I was young.
Yeah.
We moved from Ohio to Arizona in 1978. There's a big blizzard in Ohio. My dad said, "That's it. We're done. We're going to the we're going to the heat."
Yeah.
So we ended up moving to Arizona in 1978. So that time, you know, it's about 15. So get into a, you know, again, middle class kind of situation, and but I'm the new guy now. Before, I mean, it was like I had all these friendships, and I really think things are about identity. You know, we have identity and who we are, and when you move to a place that's new, it's like, you know, who can identify with me? You kind of latch on to what can give you identity. You know, who do you want to hang out with? Yeah,
I can definitely relate. When we moved, I remember like trying to be the fastest kid, and that was my identity. Or, you know, I was trying to play sports, and that was my identity. And you're right. You know, whatever we decide to be good at or connect with, you know, that starts to become who we are.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I wasn't a stud athlete. I mean, I was a stud wrestler.
Yeah, it's an athlete.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
wrestlers are badasses.
But yeah, I mean, and I was in a junior Olympics. I took 3rd place in the junior Olympics, which is pretty big feat, you know, as a young guy. And then in high school, you know, I was, you know, captain of the team and the whole works, and went to state championships and that kind of thing. But that was in the season where I didn't do drugs. You know, I had this cutoff point. Yeah. That my identity was athlete for 4 months. Yep. And the other 8 months I was, you know, pot smoker, you know, kind of, you know, running with the wrong crowd. And so that was basically my identity in high school. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's, you know, but you need to tie into you need to feel accepted in a group when you move from one place to the other. And I think, you know, nowadays, you know, I do a lot of ministry with kids and adults, that you find that a traumatic point in their life where things change. And I think that it doesn't sound traumatic, but when you leave everything you know and all of your friends and all that, and go into a new environment, you know, you do the best you can. Yeah. Yeah.
So your transition from high school to college, I remember you talked about you were looking at what to do, and you had a conversation with your dad. So what did that entail?
Yeah, you know, I looked at my siblings, and they did not go to college, and they're working and they're doing well, and they're driving new cars, and they've got a house, and they have stuff, material. And here I am, just like saying, okay, I'm just going to follow the path and get an apartment and just work, and, you know, kind of, you know, have my independence. That was my mentality. You know, nowadays people plan for college from when they're in 8th grade, or 9th grade, before or 10th grade, or whatever. And I don't have any children, so I can't, you know, say that's good, bad, or ugly, you know, to do that. But you're kind of grooming, because college is expensive, and you're like, if you can be an academic or an athlete or whatever, you can save $40,000 a year to go to college.
Yeah.
But for me, it was more about, I wanted to just get, be on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad asked me about, son, he's an engineer.
Yeah.
Or was, he passed away. But he, as an engineer, he's like, son, what do you think you want to do after high school? But he asked me that in my second semester of high school, like the last few months. And I'm like, I really didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So I was too busy partying,
wrapped up in, drugs and everything else that comes with that. Just
the fun of still being somewhat of a kid. I mean, I was 17. And so he, some of my friends did plan ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going to ASU, I'm going to Wyoming State, I'm going to whatever. They had scholarships, and I'm like, there's no way I can do that. So, my dad asked me, he's like, hey, what do you want to do, when you get out of high school? And I'm like, well, I thought I'd just go to work and, get a job. And he's like, well, he goes, I'll support you, not financially support, but from a father figure. He said he would support me no matter what I did.
Nice.
Which was a sign of, that's true love.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't need to go to college to be loved, or you don't need to do this to be loved by a good parent. My dad didn't tell me he loved me every day. Didn't tell me, but he showed love.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a sign of, he's like, no matter what you do, it's like, I love you.
Yeah.
And so that was
which is powerful.
Really, yeah. And again, we didn't have God in our lives. Mm-hmm. So I was agnostic. I thought there was something out there, but I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't promote Catholicism. My dad didn't promote. So there was kind of this
neutral situation.
Yeah.
And so how did you decided to go to college, and what did you decide to go after?
Yeah. Well, because of the entrepreneurial spirit in me, looking to make money. When my dad asked me that question, he said, so what do you want to do? I said, I'm not sure. He goes, what about college? And he asked that question. I said, I was a pretty good student in high school, but I didn't take all the hard stuff. I didn't take chemistry and physics and calculus. And I was good because I skated through the easy stuff.
I did as well.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. Barely made it through.
Yeah. I mean, I was B-ish, B plus, whatever.
It's better than me. I was more in the C-ish range.
Yeah. But I was wrapped up in other parts of life and having fun and high school is different. You've got to attend, you've got to be there. You've got, so my first thought is, who makes the most money?
Okay.
What college degree makes the most money? And I expected to hear doctors and lawyers and that kind of thing, but in his mindset, or his realm, so to speak, he said electrical engineers.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, I have no concept of that because I didn't take physics, chemistry, all of it. I said, they make the most money? He said, yep. I said, that's what I'll be.
Nice. Just like that. Just like that.
So my decision was not based on a passion.
Yeah.
Or not based on a role model, or not based. I mean, my dad was a good role model for an engineering, provider for our family. Mom stayed at home. We had 5 kids. Or I didn't, but they did. So I said, yeah. I said, that's what I'll be. And he said, okay. it was just this weird, like 5 minute, no planning,
Discussion.
no applications, no,
It's like, yeah.
acceptance letters and any of that. So, I said, okay, that's what I'll be. But I had no idea what that meant.
You're just like, what makes the most money? Electrical engineer. All right, that's me.
Yeah,
I'll do it. And then you didn't really know.
Yeah, because I tackle life that, if, it's different now with God.
Sure.
But at the time, I was like, if I can make money out of something, I will make it happen.
Hmm.
So in this case, I'm like, okay, if that's the biggest carrot,
yeah,
which for me was money and material and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't care what it takes to get there. I'll make it happen.
Okay. Where did that mindset kind of come from? That's kind of.
Well, I think it was just seeing, like, growing up in a middle class family, we, with my parents having a bunch of kids, we didn't get, real nice, shiny gifts. And we weren't, new. I had to wear hand-me-down clothes and that's okay.
Yeah,
I had brothers
absolutely.
and that's just the way it is, but then I had other friends that their parents were, they had new shoes all the time, and I'm like, stuff. You get your school clothes at the beginning of the year. That's all we got was, and I might get a hand-me-down or whatever. So I'm like, there could be something more to that. But that's kind of the, I'm like, I want to, have something more. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so, and I'm, at the time I'm still smoking pot and doing opium and all these things, but there was something, and I know God does things where he has a path for us. It may not be, obviously the drugs are not the path, but he, is that a divine appointment as me saying yes to engineering to get me to where I am today. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost the story of, maybe not quite the story of Joseph, but, where Joseph gets thrown into slavery and, sold by his brothers, and then goes up high and works for, I think, Potiphar, and then, gets thrown in the jail. And so he goes through these ups and downs, but it was all part of God's plan, in the sense to, kind of be able to, he ended up having influence in the position he was eventually. And so I think that's kind of seems similar to the story that you've gone through, the kind of the up and downs and into a sphere or a place of influence. Yeah. And so,
and similar to David.
Yeah.
I mean, he's anointed king, or, at 17 or whatever, and it took him 14 years to get to where. So yeah, I mean, it's. I think God has these plans for us that may not be apparent in the time, but it's just a matter of time before it gets there.
Yeah. So you went through college and you were doing drugs and all that kind of stuff, graduated, so, here you got a C grade average. So you got through, and then what was next after that?
Yeah, I think, it's just to touch on the college part is, because I didn't have the prerequisites for engineering. Yeah. It took me 2 years to get caught up, and I paid my own way through college. Okay. Yeah. So my parents didn't have cash. So I was a janitor cleaning toilets at night. And so I had a work ethic, and then I would, go home and study and I kept partying through college. But, I think if you have a work ethic, and you're willing to do whatever it takes. Yeah. Whether it's in life, in relationships. Yep. In business, now with my business that I own, and if I see a piece of paper in the parking lot, I pick it up, but all my other guys will walk right over it. So I heard Herb Kelleher, he was the founder of Southwest Airlines. He said, if you see something that's not right in your business, and nobody else is taking care of it. You take care of it. Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
And it starts with a little thing like picking up the trash.
Yeah. You see a piece of paper, or, you see it, whatever,
Yeah.
it's the ethic. So in that time of perseverance through college, which I wanted to quit so many times because I lived on macaroni and cheese, top ramen. You sounded like the same.
Yeah,
tuna fish.
I know that life.
And I think a lot of people, listening here today probably can relate to that. Is, you struggle, and we see, I used to see kids with credit cards.
Yep.
And they're out eating sushi and steak, and their parents, in college, just hand them the credit card and take care of all their bills. And I was jealous of that.
Sure. But
they're still doing that, is an entitlement and that kind of thing. And for me, I feel through college, just whatever it takes, you have to do it. Put your head down. As hard as it is, life and college and whatever is faced, whatever you're faced with, you just need to overcome. And it's easier now with God.
Yeah. Cool. So after college, you got a job offer, or you took a job, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I was like the lowest level. I went from B plus in high school to like maybe C minus in college.
So
in my major, because it was a struggle.
Sure. Yeah.
I had a hard time going from kind of coasting in high school to engineering. I mean, that's a tough schedule. And I was still using cocaine. I was still, my problem was, and I like to put things into the light for you guys, watching is, we put things out there into the light because I'm not ashamed. That's not my identity anymore. Is that was my identity, but it's not my identity now.
Yeah.
So, when you go to, I went to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and you have to stand up and say, my name's Gordon Count. I'm a cocaine addict, but I haven't used cocaine for a long time. Yeah. So why are you going to identify with being an addict? Because I'm not an addict.
That's not who you are.
That's not who I am. So, I mean, I think those programs are great for some. Yeah. AA, NA, all that. But I believe when you give that statement of identity, that's not really who you are right now. So, yeah, out of college, I was kind of on the low end of the, everybody's getting offers around me, all my friends and the top dogs that
are getting these big contracts.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, that's big money, and I'm like, where's my offer?
Shoot.
So I saw a little posting on our job board at the college, and it was, I mean, we're talking 1987. Okay. And it was $10 an hour for an engineer, $22,000 a year, and at the top guys were getting like 36, 38, 40. Okay. And I'm like, well, do whatever it takes, right? Okay. You got to get your foot in the door somewhere. So I went and talked to the vice president, who's still a good friend of mine today. Nice. This is in 1988. Got out of college in 87. I took 6 months off just to go travel, the country, because I knew I'd work the rest of my life. 1988, went and interviewed with this guy, and he just saw something in me that, I mean, they weren't offering a lot of money, so they couldn't expect.
You saw something, though.
They couldn't expect a whole lot out of me, at $10 an hour.
But he saw something in you. Was it I don't know, was it something that you saw in yourself, or was it something that you had to kind of discover, or did they see it and kind of pull it out of you? If that makes sense.
I think a bit of both. I mean, I went in and I said, I'll do whatever it takes.
Wow.
You know, and that's how I went through college. You know, whatever
Whatever
it takes.
You know,
And
cleaning,
and
being a janitor. You
yeah,
know,
I'm cleaning
eating top
toilets.
ramen and
Top ramen. It's like whatever it takes.
I'm gonna
You know,
make
I
it.
drove a car that, you know, I go buy $10 tires that are used off of you know, and my tires were never the same. They were, you know, my car had, so it's whatever it takes to make my car run, you
whatever
know,
it takes. I like that.
and I, you know, again, you know, for those watching, it's like, you know, we can all relate to that stuff. It's whatever it takes. And so I went in there and, you know, I'm very personable and, you know, I'm, you know, a team player. And so the guy hired me.
Nice. So hired you and went to work, you did whatever it takes, and you know, you proved yourself, right? In that position. What did that look like? Where did that take you?
Well, 12-hour days.
Okay.
And you know, wearing a tie every day.
It's rough.
From wearing t-shirts and being kind of the bum. But I had this mentality that we, as an engineer, the engineers wore a tie. And, you know, it's kind of funny, you know, I had a comment because my hairline's receded. It's receded more now. But I had a comment from a lady, you know, we had maybe 50 employees. She goes, "You must have a big brain." I go, "Why?" She goes, "Because you got this big space between your eyebrows and your hair." And I'm like, "Well."
That's funny. I have that space too.
Yeah.
And I got lots of hair.
Anyway, that's a little side note. But so yeah, I proved myself by working hard, working hours, working weekends, doing whatever it takes.
And that was in a sales position?
No, well, primarily engineering.
Okay.
You know, I started in engineering, project engineering, but my whole goal was to become a sales engineer.
Okay.
Because I didn't like the grind of, you know, the engineering solution part.
Yeah, that wasn't a good fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm entrepreneur. I'm a sales guy, you know.
Yeah.
But I went in thinking I want to be a sales engineer, but I had to get into the grind first, and then things changed, you know, as I was there.
Okay. And so it says here at the age of 27 was when you decided to kind of go off on your own?
Well, actually at 27, they promoted me to the sales engineer.
Okay. Okay.
And then I'm watching the business model and I'm thinking, you know, this model is not the best model, even though I'm young.
Sure. You just saw.
Because they were developing stuff for US customers. And then they'd transfer it to offshore for production. But they would do all the engineering work, sell it to the customer, and then let someone else take all the engineering drawings and all that kind of thing that we've developed. And they would send it to another company in Singapore or China or Korea or whatever to manufacture the high production. So I said, hey, why don't we go after, it's our design.
Yeah.
Let's go after the big stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, you have an open checkbook. You chase it. We don't know how to do it. You go do it.
Cool.
So I'm like,
the entrepreneur in you was like, sweet, let's do this.
Yeah. And so I was so bold. I said, if you give me that position as international sales manager, I'll work for commission only. No salary. And they're like, and this guy's bold. Yeah,
they were like, yeah, this guy might be a fool.
Yeah, he's a fool. He's either going to make his money or save his money. You know? So I'm 27 and I'm like, so I put that on the table and they said, okay.
Yeah.
And so I started chasing the business and I started going to Singapore. I had no contacts. I had no international business degree.
Yeah.
You know, I had no mentor. But I'm like, whatever it takes. So I started going to Scotland. I started going to Singapore. I started going to China. I started going to countries that are products. I saw, I talked to our U.S. counter, the customers in the U.S. and I'm like, okay, I'd get a contact. And this is the day before email. I mean, we're talking, it was fax machine.
Wow.
I mean, some, cryptic email, stuff. So I'm like phone calls to Scotland, phone call, like I'd get a contact name from the US guy and he'd go, well, this is who my counterpart is in China or Scotland or whatever. Here's his number.
So different now.
Fax, and we get purchase orders on fax machines, and the paper that you leave it in the sun, it would turn black. I mean, this is before, this is before your time, man.
I wasn't even born yet.
This is before your time, but and that was right about when email started moving along. But it was very slow, very cryptic. I mean, it was, I think AOL was the kingpin at the time. America, you probably don't even know that. America Online, I think it was AOL. And the speed, you're trying to send documents and that kind of thing. So anyhow, I just started chasing the business.
Yeah.
And I started making contacts, and so the sales grew. Within about a 4-year period, I quadrupled the sales of the company. And I was the only sales guy.
And you were making commission.
Commission only.
Yeah. I love that, the boldness to be able to go to somebody and say, hey, I don't want a salary. I want commission only. And because it's the idea, the mentality of you eat when you earn. And you had to earn. You had to provide. You had to make it happen. Yeah. And there was like it kind of forced you to be successful in a sense.
Well, you don't sell, you don't eat, just like you say, and I think nowadays there's so much entitlement, and that's a subject I think we can all relate to. We see a lot of that now as, like I said, the kid with the credit card in college, he had no reason to work hard. He could go out and buy dinner for his friends and just hand, mom and dad paid the credit card. So growing up, with top ramen and all that in college, it's like, I'm putting it on the line. I'm going to prove myself. So within about 3 years from 22,000, I'm making 56,000.
Okay. That's a big
commission
jump.
Only.
Yeah.
Because I put it on the line. And then, man, we just started opening up the floodgates. And so yeah, that was worked for that company for about 6 years.
Okay. And then at the age of 31, you decided, hey, I'm gonna go off my own and build my own company.
Yeah. Well, what happened is the current company, the company I worked for, I got so much traction in the international market that they started developing another project, another program, so to speak, that was more lucrative for them. And so they said, hey, we're going to focus more on this. And then the technology part that I was dealing with primarily, they said, we're going to let that go. I'm like, I'm commission only. So this is what I've built.
This is.
And they're starting something new. So I said, I tell you what, I said, you don't want to let your customers down by saying, hey, we're getting out of this part of the business to focus on this part of the business. I said, what if I took over that part of the business? And so I go into our customers that I'm the only sales guy in the company. And I say, hey, company A is getting out of the business, but I've started a new company and I'm going to start taking over the business. So it was and my man, the guys, the owners of the company A said, that's a great solution. So they look good by not letting the customers down for the product we were doing. And then immediately I was into the Fortune 100 companies because I was
you already had that.
I was the face guy.
Yeah.
And so they, I said, I'll buy the equipment. They didn't even charge me for the business.
Wow.
They just, for the equipment that they had to support the business, that's all I had to pay for.
So you saw a huge opportunity and your company, for whatever reason, didn't see it and they were looking to move on. And you're like, hey,
there's something here.
There's something here. And so in the international space, because
Right.
you were thinking bigger than just the US, really.
Yeah.
And okay. And so from there, what did that look like getting started and, starting your own company from the ground up? Well, not necessarily from the ground up because you had those connections, but you saw, basically what you saw was something that wasn't yet created and you got to go and create it.
Well, it was similar to what I was already doing.
Okay.
But they wanted to go down, a different path in the same space, the same technology space, but for higher end products than what we were doing. So, so I'm still doing today what I did, with the previous company 27 years ago.
Wow.
And it's evolved into, just
multiple companies and
multiple companies and projects. But I'm like, hey, if I could quadruple the company in the space that I'm in, and they want to get out of that, I'm seeing there's growth.
Yeah.
There's potential.
Okay.
It's really good for them too, because they eventually sold $1 billion worth of equipment in the space they wanted to go into.
Okay.
And I'm like, I was glad for that, but they basically just said, hey, you buy the equipment that we use for, this part of the company. It's a circuit board, semiconductor test equipment, circuit boards and that kind of thing. If you just buy the equipment, we'll just give it to you.
Wow.
And then you can take the customers.
Sweet.
And they didn't charge me for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But the equipment was very expensive.
Okay.
And I have no money. I mean, I've got, 31. And it was $100,000 for the equipment. So we put it on credit card. And I had a little bit of savings and I partnered up with a guy.
So was that super risky for you?
Yeah, it was everything I had. Everything. I mean, it was everything I had. I lived in a rental apartment. So I kind of took a step back to take the risk.
Okay.
I don't want to say it's gambling. It's like, I keep saying whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
It's like, okay, I have this vision. I have great vision of the next step. And, my banker made a comment. So when we started the company, we didn't have any money. and so we borrowed money. We had some money from our 401ks and like that, it's a small percentage, but it was enough to kind of, get going. But I had a relationship with the banker from my previous company. And that relationship was nobody in the company liked golf. My previous company.
Yeah.
I was the golf fan and they always wanted to give us golf passes.
Sure.
So the bankers are like, well, who wants golf? And everyone always turned to me. So I went and started socializing with these high-end bankers, and I'm an engineer, project engineer, but I built relationship with them.
Okay.
So when I started out on my own, I'm like, I need money to buy this equipment. So I connected with the vice president of the bank that I met
golfing
at the golf event, like the Phoenix Open.
Okay.
We would go to the Phoenix Open, the socializing, and it's like, here's your card. Of course they're handing out cards like we all do.
Yeah.
So I met the banker, and he's like, I had his card. So when I started my new company, Highrel, in 1994, he's the first guy I called.
Yeah.
And he did the first SBA loan in Arizona. 001 was for me.
Wow.
He started a new program, or at the time it was just perfect. And we were the very first SBA loan in our space, or I don't know how they,
Just like
quantified
a tech,
it.
it's tech company
if it was
or
tech
just,
or it was,
whatever.
Startups, whatever. But I had a business partner. I bought him out in 2006. But he came into our office, and we were renting an automotive. So, you take your car to an auto mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a little front office space, and then the whole bay in the back is cars.
Yeah.
Well, he needed more car space, so he rented the space next to him. So he had more car space, but he didn't need the office. It was 300 square feet.
Oh my gosh.
And that was our first office.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. So we had 300 square feet, auto mechanic, tools going on in the background. So the banker comes over to sign the papers, and we had 2 lawn chairs, like the aluminum. Remember the aluminum?
You're asking me to remember the aluminum.
This is pre. Okay, you ever camp chairs that we can.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But they're the aluminum, like checkered pattern, and a 6-foot long plastic table.
Huh.
That's our business, and a 22 megahertz computer.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over, and there were 3 of us, so we had to change chairs. Like we only had two lawn chairs, so we had to get up and sign papers, and then the next
person get up,
and then we, so that's how we started, and we got the financing to buy the equipment, 1994, and from then our first order was with a huge company. They're one of the top companies in the world right now. And I don't want to really say the company names.
You don't need to give names. That's fine.
But yeah, they're one of the top, CPU, providers in the world, laptops and all that.
And you guys
first order because of my relationship with them from my previous company. So we started off with lawn chairs and an automotive shop. And that was 1994.
Wow. So, whatever it takes, you took a huge risk. Took a risk to be able to get, going from, hey, I'm just going to do just commission, pay me just commission. That's a risk. And then you took another risk of saying, hey, I'm putting everything on the line to start my business. Right. And then, and then from there it was networking, it was relationships. You went back and golf, And
golf's always
if you're good business on the golf course. Yeah. And I try to get away with that with my wife, and she doesn't buy it yet. So not yet.
The more money no, it's not the more money you make, but golf's always, you could just call the golf course the office. Hey, I'm at the office.
I'm at the office.
I'm at the office.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that with yachts. They have a yacht and they call it the office. Where are you? I'm at the office.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
I don't have a yacht, but just.
Yeah, not yet. So yeah, it was all risk. And so, what would you say to somebody who's thought about starting a business, who has wanted to start a business, has this dream, has this vision like you have, but they haven't taken that next step of risk of putting everything on the line? Because I know for me and our family, like we've had to do that too. It's in order to you take that step back in order to take that huge leap forward. But it's scary for people, and it's they got their family on the line, they got everything. There's so many different variables. What would you say to that person who's waiting or wanting to start their business or start their dream or go after their vision? What would you say to them?
Pray.
Amen.
Yeah. No, at the time I wasn't a Christian. I didn't become a Christian until about in the year 2000. So I didn't pray. I didn't do any of that. But you took
but there was a risk.
Yeah. So I'm joking with pray, but now I pray.
That would be your answer.
I pray over everything. But it was different. I was single.
Mm-hmm.
and no responsibilities. So it's a little different to put everything on the line. If you lose everything, you're not affecting anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
So, there's some people that have families,
Mm-hmm.
and that's got to come into the equation. But if you're confident, well, first of all, for me, I didn't like to work for anybody. I wanted to make decisions. So if God says man's wisdom is foolishness to him, God's wisdom is man's wisdom is foolishness to God.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this weird, thing, to go through as man, our wisdom, but for people wanting to start up, if you're confident in yourself and you're confident in what you're doing and you've got a network of people, and that's a hard decision. It's a hard decision.
It's scary. It's hard.
It takes money, it takes financing, it takes connections.
Well, yeah.
I think
But you didn't have any money. It was everything you had plus the relationship.
I had some 401k money.
Yeah.
That I had saved. I think I don't know, $30,000, something like that. But for those people that are confident and they have connections, they have support in their family. It's a lot of businesses fail.
Sure.
In the first year, 75% of the businesses, fail. In the first 5 years, another 10%. So business, it's not like it's easy.
No.
I mean, that.
No, it's not.
It's not easy. So you have to have fortitude. You have to have faith. You have to have, confidence. You have to have, at least some stability and not think, okay, I'm going to start a business and make all this money in 6 months. You got to. I used credit cards for a year.
Yeah.
To buy my groceries.
Shoot. But I mean, it was the mentality of whatever it takes, plus taking the risk, and because you saw the vision, you had the dream, and you could say, hey, now where you're sitting, would you say it was worth it to take that risk? Yeah, of course.
This is my house in Colorado, and I have a house in Arizona, and
travel the world.
I just went to Mexico. Yeah. I've been all over the world. Yeah.
So I mean, it was worth it. It was worth it.
It's worth it, but cautionary. I mean, it's there's probably 27 years is a long time and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that it takes fortitude. It takes whatever it takes. It's fortitude. It's stress. It's anxiety. It's late nights. It's 12-hour days, 16-hour days. If you just want to coast through life and work your 8 hours, don't go into business for yourself. Yeah. I mean, that you're working. I see emails from you at 4 a.m. to 1 a.m. So, I mean, and, for me right now, I deal with Asia, I deal with Europe, and I deal with the U.S. So the time zones, like at 5 p.m. on a Sunday night, I'm already in China. I'm already doing business in Asia. Yeah. Then at about 3 a.m., I'm doing business with Europe. And then when I get up in the morning, I'm doing business with the U.S. Yeah. So it's a 24/7. Yeah. And you've got taxes, and you've got just liabilities and obligations, and sure. So it's a lot. I mean, it takes a lot, but I was the whole time until 2008, I was using cocaine as my fuel. Wow. I mean, I was working 16 hours a day. It was all about money. It was all about greed. I was making $1 million a year. I mean, it was the wrong reason, and it was going to kill me. Yeah. So I want to, just looking at you guys there is, don't do it for greed. Don't do it for money. I mean, obviously we like nice stuff. But make sure you really do it for the right reasons. Mine was greed, to be better than the next guy, to have more than them. And it was kind of the wrong reasons. It was successful. It's, God, you know, can put us on a path like you mentioned with, Joseph or King David, 14 years or whatever years later, they know that they're going to contribute to the kingdom. And so there's a path that God can put us on. But it's not easy. It's not easy doing your own business.
Yeah. That's a fair warning. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, go into business, follow your dreams, go after it, but
and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the case. It's a challenge, failure, all that kind of stuff.
And you're going to fail. You're going to have failures.
Yeah.
You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have where you want to quit. And that's in anything in life, whether it's college or in sports or academics, whatever it is. There's going to be times where it's like, man, I just don't want to do it. But if you can't handle the heat,
Yeah.
get out of the kitchen. It's not that easy.
Yeah. So everything changed, just to kind of go through, you're doing your business, everything's, you're doing it for the greed, but then you say, everything changed when I was arrested in 2008 for being under the influence of cocaine. So what changed?
Yeah. Well, in 2008, I was at the top peak of money making. I was married to my previous wife, and I was using cocaine as fuel. Mm-hmm. I had a mansion. I had a huge place up on the mountain. Not at hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's multi-millions. But everybody looked at envious to me, and my wife, because I worked so much that I felt guilty, and I had to, she had gold, she had diamonds, she had the cars, we had all the stuff. But I was so empty inside because the only thing that motivated me was money. So I'm doing cocaine. So it's about a 20-year time
of doing cocaine.
Every day, morning to night.
And you were addicted.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I needed it to function.
Yeah.
But I was a functional addict. But I was a tyrant at work. When I walked in the door, everybody put their head down because they didn't want to make eye contact with me, because I was always looking for what was wrong instead of what was right. So I was the pessimist. I was the greed. I was the ogre. I was just not a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so, I'm making all this cash, so, and had all this stuff.
Had
I was miserable.
The mansion, the diamonds,
we had
gold, all
anything we wanted.
Yeah.
Anything we wanted. And so my previous wife and I at the time, that's all we did was travel, party. She didn't know I did coke. I hid it from her. But we just, whatever we wanted, we had. Got arrested. Now I'm not afraid to share. I'm not ashamed to share this because, biblically, if you put things out into the light, the devil can't hold it against you anymore.
Yep.
So I put it out there and I preach about it. I've been in 14 different countries ministering, and I share my story, and get arrested. Once I get out of jail, I had heard the Holy Spirit tell me, he said, you're either going to die. So in 2008, I was 45. He said, you're either going to die in your ways or you're actually going to follow Jesus as your Lord and Savior in 2008. Because I'd raised my hand for Jesus in 2000, but I was still doing coke and still doing. So it wasn't, I was like you hear,
things didn't really
Rhino,
change.
Republican in name only, whatever, but I was a Chino, Christian in name only, yeah, I mean, it just, on the appearance from the outside, everybody was envious and like, I want what they had, but we were broken on the inside. But 2008 got arrested. So I heard the Holy Spirit tell me, you're either going to die this way or you're going to follow Jesus, as your Lord and Savior. So I went to a rehabilitation, 30-day place. And I read the Bible for the first time as Jesus as my Lord and Savior that night. I woke up the next day and all the cocaine addiction was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just a miracle.
Just a miracle. I mean, from 20 years of, physically you become dependent.
Yeah.
Your body depends on it. But I had no desire, no withdrawals, no thought, it was just, God took it from me. So I came home. Well, actually, a little side note is I'd done so much cocaine, I didn't realize I couldn't smell.
Wow.
So people in the morning, at this place for 30 days, it was $1,000 a night where I went. It was pricey, but it was all organic. No sugar, no dairy, no, obviously no alcohol, no sugar, no dairy, no wheat, and then I'm coming cold turkey off of coke and, hard alcohol and people would say, man, it smells so good in here. I'm like, I can't smell anything because I damaged the nerves or the smeller, my smeller.
Yeah.
So, that's a side note. But I came home 30 days later and my wife at the time said, I walked in the door and she goes, who are you? She goes, you don't look the same. You don't act the same. You don't talk the same. You're not the man I married, and I can't be married to you anymore.
Wow. And you just overcame this huge addiction.
I was transformed.
You're transformed. Just completely different person.
Yeah, the identity. I talked about identity.
Yeah.
My identity previously was I'm the CEO of this company, international. I make a bunch of money. I've got this flashy stuff. We do whatever we want. And my identity changed overnight. And, in that 30-day period. And, we didn't have the best relationship, so I'm not blaming it on her.
Sure.
I'm just saying that that's the transformation that God did in me in that time frame. So that was 2008, and that's when, my whole identity shifted on who I was.
So your identity came, the world was your identity, things of the world, and then your identity was Christ now.
Yeah.
And you were just a completely different person. Yeah. And so you had this new life, you went through a divorce and things changed. Tell me kind of, not about that, but maybe just that transition.
Yeah. Well, the way, one of the best ways when I do share in ministry is if you have a circle. So you have a circle like this, and Jesus is the center of the circle. And then everything outside of the circle is the world. So when you focus on Jesus, you enter this circle. Well, I'm trying to do this for the video, so hopefully you guys can see this, but so you have the center, this circle, and with the world being outside the circle, I was straddling the fence.
Okay.
1 foot in the world, one foot into Jesus' foot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so during this change and this transformation, when you start pursuing Jesus in the center of the circle, it's like when a satellite, fails in orbit and it starts re-entering the atmosphere. The big chunks start falling off first, and then the little stuff, and then it disintegrates. So that's how I equate it is, as you pursue Jesus, all your baggage, the skeletons in the closet, the demons, whatever you want to call them, they start falling off. So the big stuff starts falling off. So as you approach the center, which is Jesus, a relationship with Jesus, a good relationship, the greed fell off, the anger fell off, the pride fell off. So when I was in the world, you're dealing with the worldly things, and now my treasures are in heaven. So I don't hold on to money. I don't hold on. I mean, I have nice stuff, yes, sure, but I don't hold on to everything like I need to hoard
you need this
because I'm trying to pursue Jesus, and with that, things fall off.
Yeah, that's it's an amazing story of just the transformation of life. You had everything, anyone would ever want, but you said you were still empty.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until you found Jesus that you felt fulfilled and felt purpose.
Yeah.
So how did knowing Jesus, how did that change your business? How did that change your life?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I've always had, even though I went through, all the addictions and all that kind of thing and greed, and I was always had integrity. And with integrity, with customers, with, bankers, with lawyers, the IRS, that kind of thing. So, I always had integrity. But when Jesus, when I realized, when I committed to Jesus being my Lord and Savior, I was ready, like, I think about 2011 or 12. I'm like, man, I just want to sell. I'm tired of the rat race. I'm tired of the business.
You just wanted to sell your business.
Just cash out and coast and not coast, but to get into just ministry, just being with Christians.
Yeah.
And my pastor at the time, he said, he's like, well, who, I was kind of stressed out. And he's like, well, who owns your business? And I said, inside, I'm saying, I do.
Yeah. But
I'm like, God?
Yeah.
He goes, exactly. Let God worry about it. Because you commit your life to God, which you've done. You keep working. You don't just hand it all out, just say, God, you run the business. He said, God owns the business. Then run it like it's God's business. And from that point on, which has been maybe 10 years, it's, we have a culture in our company, and I've had people walk in, like we had a guy looking at a building next door to buy.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to ask us, hey, what do you think about the community for business and the city, and how do they treat you and that kind of thing. And I wasn't at the office at the time, but he walked in, and the lady that met him, she's been with me for years. He's like, the first question he asked was, does a Christian own this business? And she said, yes. He goes, I can feel it.
Wow.
So cool. We leave the sin of Jesus behind. So that from before everybody looked down when I walked in the door to now everybody comes to me for ministry. Like I'm their rock.
Yeah.
So that's just, how the business has changed. I have an employee that I mean, with one of the gifts of the Spirit is discernment.
Yeah.
Discernment of spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And, I saw something in him, and we have to have spiritual eyes.
Yeah.
And, I brought him into my office and I said, hey, what's going on? And we were talking, and he was going to end his life at lunchtime.
Wow.
And I ministered to him, and he's still with me today.
That's awesome.
And that was, so I wear shirts that say, armor of God, Jesus lives,
So different from the person you were before.
Yeah,
you were coked out,
yeah.
drinking, and just everybody was scared of you, and you're always looking for, things wrong.
Right.
Versus the person where you go in and you are literally ministering to your employees.
Now I'm like looking at what's right. How you doing? Come in my office. Let's talk. Let's cry together. You can cry on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And for the guy to come in, a total stranger to say, does a Christian own this business? Because I can feel it.
Mm.
So the Spirit of God is there.
Yeah.
I hired a president to help, take over before we started in, a couple other companies. I'm like I got to get an exit plan at some point in time.
Yeah.
I'm gray now, but I could be grayer. So I hired him, and he, he's Christian, and there's a whole story behind hiring him. He saw me we met for lunch appointment, and he saw this guy's leg that was broken at the ankle, 45 degrees, and I prayed for him, and the guy got completely healed. And so, this guy was a Christian supplier. He's like, I know the Bible inside and out, but I've never seen healing.
Dang.
So he started coming to my Bible study. Eventually hired him about 5 years ago as my president, started taking over. And I told him when I hired him, I said, you can preach Jesus to any customer. If we lose a customer because of Jesus, I'm okay with that.
That's cool. So that's how you run your business. Is that forward?
Yeah, and I said, because it's God's business. It's God's business. If we are promoting, and when we go out to lunch with customers now, we have some customers, and we start talking about God and Jesus and Holy Spirit, and they're like, yeah, I go to this church, or I go to that, and all of a sudden we're praying before our meals now with customers.
Yeah.
So it's cool, and another part of that is my employees know our position. My position as the owner, that if we bring in a new hire, a new person that's going to interview with us, one of the main things I say is, hey, this company doesn't belong to me, it belongs to God.
That's cool.
So I'm not sure what your faith is, or what your stance is on that, but I'm just letting you know this God owns this business, so that's who you're working for. It's not me.
Wow, that's cool. So I love that, and that was one of the things that when I met Gordon, was that he that was one of the things he kind of shared with me, was like, you don't work for me, you work for God. And he was telling me about his employees, and that really stood out to me. And that's kind of one of the things that I feel like so many of us can learn how to integrate God into our businesses, and into and I feel like there's success that comes with that as well. Obviously not everything's flowers and whatever. There's a grind and all that, but there's just the favor of God that comes into your business when you make him the center. If you're talking about making the center of your business and center of your life, and so I love that story. Then you met the love of your life.
Yeah, well, I was like done.
Yeah,
I was done with relationships. I just wanted to focus on God.
Yeah.
And this was 12 years ago. Back in 2009. at church, I met Deborah, and kind of, to make a little funny story about it is, when you're at our age, at 45, and I'm not going to say her age, but we're equivalent. You don't want to mess around. You don't want to waste time.
No.
But when she said she had Arizona Cardinal football season tickets, I'm like, will you marry me?
That's awesome.
That's a joke. And then she said she played golf. I'm like, man, here's 2 rings, So yeah, we started dating. She had come out of a similar situation, and but equally yoked, and that's important.
Both pursuing God.
Both, it can't be family first, God second. It can't, God is always going to be on the throne, and I mean, it's in life sometimes we put other things, if we wake up in the morning instead of praying, we might have to start working. And I do that. I miss that.
Sure, yeah. I
miss that, like God first, like at the moment, but God's always first for me. I mean, in the big picture, what I mean? Yeah. But I saw her heart she had like a family living with her and another person from Africa living with her. And she had like $700 in her bank account. And she worked her butt off. But she gave everything she had to the kingdom.
Wow.
And so with meeting her and seeing her heart and the beauty she had, and physical beauty, of course, beauty's inside out, right? It's but the beauty I saw was her heart and the love for people and the compassion and I had none of that. I didn't have that. I didn't have any kids. I've been through relationships that just blew up, and so I didn't know how to love well. Didn't know how to be compassionate. Didn't know how to give.
Yeah.
So met her, and within 5 months we got married.
Nice.
And now, we've been down the Amazon River, 300 miles deep into the Amazon on a boat and ministering together, and been to Africa and different places, and she's not too crazy about me going to like Afghanistan and some of the most dangerous places in the world. She won't go. But yeah, so we love to store treasures in heaven and minister together, and we walk hand in hand.
That's awesome. What an amazing story. Appreciate you sharing, just going from dark to light, from having everything that the world says you should have, and then stepping into the freedom of Jesus and how you run your business now, and very successful international business, and seeing doing whatever it takes and taking risks and all of that. What a cool story. So I pray that people can learn from that. And the Bear Fruit Show is all about seeing fruit on the tree, and that's what I saw in Gordon. I saw, hey, this guy has run a very successful business internationally, and he's got fruit on the tree. And how can I learn from him? And that and it's cool to be able for you to be able to share that story with other people. And my prayer for the show is that people can learn from people's mistakes. They can learn from what they did or didn't do, and they can stand on your shoulders, can be there for and just kind of have a jump start in certain things. So super awesome. We're going to run through some questions, which I'm kind of excited about. The first one is, you mentioned it just a second ago, but tell me a little bit about Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So you did some ministry in Afghanistan. Tell me what that was like.
Well, I think all of the viewers here would know that Afghanistan is one of the most dangerous places in the world for a Christian.
Yeah.
However, there are lovers of Jesus in Afghanistan.
That's awesome.
And so it brings, here we have so much liberty and freedom, church, and we can talk about Jesus. We can print things about Jesus. Your newsletters and all. It's like God first, and it's like that's just not. I used to have a wedding ring that had crosses on it. When my wife and I got married, we had matching wedding rings with crosses that we had engraved and filled in. But going to Afghanistan, I had to change my wedding ring.
Oh yeah,
because you can't have you display you're a Christian. Of course, we got it obtained by the Army as soon as we got there, and that was there's a whole. I mean, I could go on for hours with what happened, but bottom line is we ministered to the underground
church,
the underground church, the leaders, and these guys are passionate about Jesus, and they are. Like some of them have a safe, because a lot of families live together, like mom, dad,
brothers, sisters, everybody's together.
And everybody. So some of them were telling me they have a safe in their room so they could put their Bible in.
So no one knows that they're Christian.
And it's they have to hide their Bible.
Wow.
Some of them were telling me their parents found out and tried to burn them to death. I mean,
yeah,
it's extremely. But they love Jesus, and the Holy Spirit we were preaching and teaching, and that the fruit, you bear fruit.
Yeah.
I mean, we sow into the kingdom, treasures in heaven, but I don't want to be the guy that just gives money.
Yeah.
I want I'm boots on the ground.
Yeah, you don't want to just be on the sideline.
Yeah,
be in the game.
Amazon, deserts of Angola, Chile and Nicaragua, wherever, I want to see what's going on, and I want to be part of that. I want to, Jesus, the book of Acts, you see all the risks and everything that these people take, and it's like the book of Acts, you go in there and, we're in one place where they had a little clay pot with the worship music inside the pot, so it could only channel through a small hole, so that we could hear it in a small circle, so nobody else could hear it.
Wow.
So yeah, from being and at the time, that's when when President Trump announced moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And the Muslim world announced 3 days of rage.
And you were in Afghanistan during that time?
Yes.
Wow.
And so we were right by the town center in the hotel, and they're burning American flag.
Dang.
They're burning pictures of Trump. They're chanting "Death to America."
Yeah. So
but at the same time, I'm doing deliverance.
Wow. In
my hotel room with the pastor, his wife, and some of their leaders. They came to because they had to hunker down. They're like, you can't leave the hotel premises.
Yeah.
Right now.
Especially with them.
But here, the devil's working outside, but I'm casting demons out on the inside.
That's cool.
So it was a pretty cool experience.
Intense.
Intense.
Did you feel like you were gonna die at any point, or was there a moment of I may die on this trip, or was that not a thing?
I didn't feel I was. There's a scripture in Isaiah. It's just trust. I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's a scripture that I'd been reading, and I think it's Isaiah 12. It says, basically my life, take it to the world and let them know what I've done for you.
Wow.
And it says, don't fear. And so I kept going back to that. And I was getting choked by a demon the first night I got there in my bed. Normally, with my buddy that I travel with, Robbie Dawkins, he's taught me about that. He's like, when we go in the hotel room, we cast out all demons and pray and cleanse the room. And for some reason, we didn't do that. Neither one of us. And the first night, I'm getting choked by a demon, laying in bed.
Dang.
basically they didn't want us there. They knew what we were bringing.
Yeah.
So I commanded the demon off, and it left. And but yeah, it was because in the in Islam they have it's they talk about jihad and all that, and I'm not going to slam Islam. I mean, obviously it's not something I believe in, but it's collateral damage. They don't care if they kill 99 Muslims and kill one Christian. It's okay.
Yeah.
They don't care if they kill 99 of their own to kill one Christian. So the eyes that I felt the spirit of death coming against me. Yeah, like.
I mean, when they're chanting "Death to America" and burning flags outside.
Yeah, and then the next day the square's open and we're getting in a taxi and going to minister underground, and I'm like, what the heck, man? We look so American,
Gosh.
And so yeah, but we ministries expanding there and but yeah, super intense.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, just another risk, just the example of just, you took a risk in business, you took a risk, putting everything online, and then also in your faith, you're taking risks and, literally putting your life on the line for what you believe in. And that verse, talking about taking your story to the world, it's cool. Yeah. So let's jump into another question. What's the biggest challenge that you have with your specific role in business, and how are you've overcome it?
I think that's when I said I'd think about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the biggest challenge right now, I think, is just our world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think COVID, was a plandemic instead of a pandemic. And I think it's a pandemic by, people, way outside of my realm.
Yeah.
But because of it, I studied a lot of it, and that could take a lot of time to talk about it. But I unfortunately, a lot of people have died. It's a real thing.
Sure.
I mean, I had a friend that passed away from it.
Yeah.
He was the vice president of my work.
Yeah.
He passed away from it.
So yeah, a direct effect to your business.
It's a direct effect. But at the same time, because a lot of people are working from home, it's a busyness when you're in a big corporation.
Sure.
The top Fortune 100 companies. It's busy work. It's busy. It's meetings. It's this. It's that. They have no time to talk to you. But now that they're at home working in quarantine, we have now been approved by two, like probably the number one company in the world. I won't say their name. We just got approved as a supplier because we were working with their engineers because they're at home looking for productive things to do.
So there's an opportunity.
There's some opportunities.
You connected with the right people.
Yeah. And so we, it's a catch-22. I hate to see everybody locked down, but it's also allowing people to realize, we're an essential business. We've worked the whole time.
Sure. Yeah.
And we have social distancing, we have masks and that kind of thing. But I think that's a big challenge. Fear, is a big challenge because, I mean, we have social distancing, and I told my people, I said, you don't really have to wear a mask because it's not a mandate.
Sure.
For us with as long as we have distancing, but they choose to wear it out of the fear of what the media is telling them. So that's a challenge, is what the media, as Trump says, the fake media. And I believe there's a lot of skewed, perspective. But that's a challenge because we just don't. We're actually some of our customers, their guys are going in once a week. They're starting to let them in, but I'm like, what is that doing what's it going to do to our business? But, we're doing fine. We're doing well. We're, brought on some new customers during the time. So, the challenge is really just for my employees. For me, I've had COVID. You talked about
we just had it.
And I had a guy, my best friend, pass away from it. But
yeah,
it's a real thing. We have to be aware of it, but at the same time, we don't have to live in fear.
No.
And in my employees, I just want to instill hey, don't live in fear.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to work with people who want to work from home, which is more challenging. But, I mean, as far as challenging, we had a better year last year than we did in 2019, actually. So.
Yeah, same here. So, it's been interesting to see businesses pivot and change and, have to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And, you took something challenging, losing vice president of your company and, all the mandates, or not mandates, but like, all the things dealing with employees in different positions and all that kind of stuff. You also had a better year than you ever had because of the opportunity of working with people, because they were more present or just at home.
More available.
Yeah. So, so that's good. I think, a lot of businesses have done that. So, or not, maybe some haven't learned to do that. So that's a good thing to try to find the opportunity in the, in the situations that we're in. So.
But I do feel, I mean, we with restaurants and those places, I mean, if we're doing well, which we are, we need to bless those people.
Yeah.
If you're leaving tips, leaving tips, give them twice the amount, bless them, and feed my starving children, different places. We need to, even if we're doing well and maintaining that, don't, in my opinion,
don't hoard it.
Don't hoard it.
Give it away.
Yeah, give it away, and God smashes it down and gives you more. So.
Yeah, He does. Yeah. He really does. Cool. Fun question. If you had an extra $10 million, what would you do with it?
I think I told you buy a big house.
Yeah, I'd help you do that.
My wife and I, we try to give more money, like as a percentage of our income away each year, like a higher percentage.
So if you started at like 10, then you go 11, 12, 15, 20.
We're actually 30,
Wow.
And that's from gross.
Yeah.
So and I'm not bragging. It's just, I'm trying to challenge.
Yeah.
And,
that's awesome.
So that God keeps giving, the more we give, the more we get.
Wow.
And it's like the talents, it talks about in the Bible, the three people that the manager gave the talents to. One buried it, and the others invested, and then the ones that invested got more. So I really believe that the more we give, the more we get. I don't do it to get more.
No, but, you do it for the kingdom.
If I had $10 million, I would probably set up some perpetual type giving. We have a foundation. It's called Redeemer Outreach Foundation, where we put money into each year, and that's building. So if there was a need, we immediately saw we have cash we can give to that. So I'd fund that with some money. But the people that are doing the stuff, I've got a lot of good friends that are out there ministering, and 48 weeks a year they're on the road, and I'd want to bless them. Feed my starving children. That's a big one. We can do a meal for 22 cents.
Wow.
So, Deborah and I gave enough money to feed like 1,000 kids for a year, or whatever it is. I don't even know that. It's not about the number. It's just that, because of COVID or because of corruption in government, get into a place where you're giving money to like Red Cross, for instance. I think they take 95% for themselves and give 5% away. And I'm not slamming them. I'm not giving you data that's exact. I'm just as a kind of a,
no, it's just your
perception.
Opinion.
Perception. They get with charities that 90% of the money goes to the function. But yeah, I'd probably share with my family, some money and bless people.
Yeah.
I might buy a new car or something. I don't know. I just don't know. But I don't want to make it about, that's not my identity. Money is not my identity. And
you kind of mentioned that earlier, that you have enough money, you could retire. You could be done. What keeps you kind of in the world of business?
Well, I think as we get older, and I don't think I know, as we get older, our earning power becomes more because we have more experience, we more connections, more. And I just started another company last year because I saw the opportunity, but that could 10 times what I do now.
Wow.
And so it's really, I want to give it away.
Yeah.
My wife and I have no kids. And we want to expand the kingdom. And like my pastor said years ago, he's like, why do you want to hang out with a bunch of Christians? Because you have influence. So I have influence in what I'm doing. And so if I'm in these Fortune 100 companies and I'm talking about Jesus, I'm talking about, what Jesus has done for me.
Yeah.
And people start, like, wow, that's cool. And, but yeah, it's kingdom driven. I mean, what am I going to do if one banker, financial planner told me, he goes, okay, Gordon, let's say you sold your business for $10 million. What are you going to do with the money? I said, well, I'd invest it. He goes, what would you do every morning when you woke up? I'd look at my investment. He goes, okay, so you have $10 million in your business now, and you have control of it, and you're making money. Why would you want to sell it when you're still going to be working, looking at your investments? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he goes, if it's, I'm not in the office every day. I've got great people that work for me. So, as long I like to play golf and do my thing and
travel the world.
But if my earning power is becoming more and more and more, so I want to earn more to give more to the kingdom.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, it's such a challenge, for anyone to just give. It's scary, but coming from a place of faith, when you're like, hey, the standard is like 10%, but you're like, hey, I'm going to give more this year, or I'm going to give. To give away 30% of your net income is
gross.
Gross, which is better. Is
and it's not
about bragging.
It's not like the right hand doing what the Bible says. Don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing.
No, but it's a challenge.
I'm just challenging everybody that God, your barn becomes full, your vats become full, and it overflows. And I've seen it over and over and over again every year, that the more we give, the more we get.
Wow. That's cool. That's powerful.
And so that's why.
That's cool. So this is a good question. How do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of the things within your kind of industry, which I think is you can have a unique take on?
Well, with our technology, we're moving with, like cell phone manufacturers and computer manufacturers, and everything needs to be smaller or more powerful, or speeds need to be more. And, so everything is getting much more complicated. So, we're just always developing new ideas, new material selections, and the nice thing is I'm an electrical engineer, but I'm more administrative now, because I manage. So I have guys that look at that for me.
They kind of bring ideas.
They bring the ideas and their suggestions, and there's more ways to come to a common solution than what I know. I've got a lot of experience, yes, but at this point in time, I'm not. I love technology because of my business.
Yeah.
But I don't like technology because the younger generation's so tied to Facebook and the cancel culture and all that. So I don't like that about technology, but that's, I'm kind of in that business. And
you're in that world.
I think every part of business in the world, you may not contribute, but you may supply that chain somehow. So I mean, I really, am at a point where I delegate and manage those that want to enhance what we're doing.
That's cool. Not cool, but that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I'm as far as taking, more classes and more,
That's nice.
I'm done with that.
Cool. A couple last questions to wrap things up. You kind of already answered that one. So, what should I have asked you that I didn't ask? Or what would you like to kind of close with or share?
I think that, and I shouldn't say I think, I know, I do a lot of, and I'm not sure the audience, if you're, all Christians or,
Definitely not
business, whatever.
This is people.
But there's, carrying grudges, holding, unforgiveness, and, it's like you're drinking the poison, hoping the other person gets sick. So I think there's, if we could forgive, those, whether it's a bad business deal, a bad relationship, a bad whatever happens, it's like, we can go through life and that just holds us down. I think that, we want to, if we forgive someone for something, it doesn't mean it's okay. It just means it's like, I'm really, I'm getting rid of that. And, I talk a lot about giving to the kingdom of God. And, even if you're not a Christian, give to the community, volunteer your time, give, and give to causes, don't hoard, don't keep it for yourself. Don't, it's, I don't know, we die. It's what happens. It's just, it's here.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. So, volunteer, get involved, have influence, positive influence, be a mentor, be a role model, be a good husband, good wife, encourage each other. Don't beat each other up. I don't know. I mean, I can go down several paths with that, but I just think that life's too short. A lot of my life was spent with cocaine and greed and selfishness and that kind of thing, and I think we can get caught up in that. So I'd encourage you not to do that. Share, love, love, what the creation, God's creation has given us, and just be a good influence.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing your time with us and sharing your story. And, this is the Bear Fruit Show, learning from other people's successes, failures in life, business, real estate. So, just cool to be able to share, coming from your perspective. And just to wrap it up, you started from, middle class of the world, not a lot, but you did whatever it took to get through college. You did whatever it took to in your first job as a, electrical engineer. You worked yourself up. You saw an opportunity. You risked it all in order to start your business. And in meantime, you were wrapped up in drugs and cocaine and alcohol and everything else. But you were able to be set free from it. And coming to Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And before that, you had it all. You had the mansion, you had the cars, you had the diamonds and gold and all that kind of stuff, but you were empty on the inside.
Right.
And it wasn't until you found Jesus that set you free. Now you run multiple international businesses, traveling to 40 plus countries, and you're able to have an influence in the business world for Jesus's kingdom, and the way that you treat your employees, the way that you wear kind of Jesus on your chest. You don't work for me, you work for Jesus. Is just a game changer. You give away 30% of what you earn, and just multiple thing after thing of just examples of how business owners, non-business owners, people can live their life. And so we just I want to say thank you for sharing that. And what an amazing story of coming from dark to light, and a lot of good nuggets in there. So appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is the Bear Fruit Show. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Escape.